XLE, Indian Lake. It's 8 o'clock.
Good morning. This is Northern Light for Monday, October 9th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
Glens Falls residents will now be able to buy green electricity from the nearby hydropower dam on the Scroon River in Warrensburg.
The city as the anchor tenant, right, because it benefits the entire community indirectly, is given a special discounted rate. And in return for that, resident businesses don't see any increase by going green.
As the leaves hit peak color, Emily Russell takes us up Lowe's Ridge in the Central Adirondacks. The Ronald McDonald House in Syracuse is undertaking a $1 million expansion. About half the families who've stayed there this year have come from the North Country.
One of the biggest drivers is that the Krause Neonatal Intensive Care Unit is the only level 4 nursery. So really those tiniest and sickest of babies come here.
And we continue our To Map murals in the North Country. We'll head to Ausable Forks, which had just finished one and unveiled this season. A bridge over water under Main Street is artist Georgianne Gaffney's newest creation. All of that and more is coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake, hosting 2 taxidermy workshops, October 28th and 29th. Event details at the adkx.org. And by Apothecary Chocolates, making gourmet chocolates by hand from all natural herbs, botanicals, and tree syrups, apothecarychocolates.com. And it's the first morning of our fall fundraiser here at North Country Public Radio.
Yes, it is indeed. Or as I like to think of it, our fall festival here at North Country Public Radio. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski here with Todd Moe, who you hear every single morning. And the reason I think of it that way is because it really is this time for all of us to come together to celebrate you as a listener, all of us as listeners, and the programs that we rely on each morning to help us better understand and connect the dots of our world and of our community. As a North Country Public Radio listener, you expect more than headlines from events. This is where you get news, stories, nuanced conversations, the music, the art that you rely on to help you better understand our world. For reliable information from the North Country, it's always NCPR. Thorough and thoughtful programming and reporting that you hear from Emily Russell, from Lucy Grindon, from Kara Chapman along the Champlain, Lake Champlain. This connects us. This helps us better understand our region, and this matters to you. Join with Susan and Richard Todd in Canton, Ian McFall in Brockville, Ontario, and Patrick and Eric Bentley in Tupper Lake, who have said yes to North Country Public Radio, that we want this flowing through our airwaves for ourselves and for our neighbors and for generations to come. They made it happen, and they're handing that baton off to you to say yes to NCPR. Give now online at ncpr.org/give. And thank you so much for your support. This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. The man charged with kidnapping a 9-year-old girl in Saratoga County last week is now being investigated for other possible crimes. Craig Ross was arrested by police last Monday after they found Charlotte Senna inside a cupboard near his mother's trailer. Now police are looking into whether Ross may be connected to 2 murders that happened in the area 2 decades ago. According to the Albany Times-Union, police say this is a standard practice for this type of investigation. One teenage girl was murdered in 2003, another in 2005, and their remains were found just miles apart. Craig Ross was living in the same mobile home park as one of the victims, and the other victim was last seen near where Ross's mother's trailer is. An investigator with the Saratoga County Sheriff's Office told the paper, though, that at this time there is no direct evidence connecting Ross with either murder.
Glens Falls residents will now be able to buy green electricity from the nearby hydropower dam on the Scroon River in Warrensburg, and it won't cost them any more money. Officials announced a new partnership Friday with Boralex, which owns the dam, and Northern Power and Light, which handles the paperwork with customers. About 30% of the electricity will power Glens Falls, City Hall, streetlights, and the water treatment plant. WAMC's Samantha Simmons reports.
Renewable energy like wind, solar, hydroelectric, and thermal gets fed into the grid, namely National Grid, before being distributed by providers to customers. The provider of electricity produced by Boralex is Northern Power and Light, which offers electricity directly to customers during peak power months, spring for hydro and summer for solar. Emmett Smith, co-founder of Northern Power and Light, says the program works through community distributed generation,
which was created by New York State to help small-scale renewable power producers connect directly with energy users in a way that is economically beneficial for both. It's an authentic way to choose clean power, keep your dollars local, and not raise your costs. We're kind of like cutting out the middleman.
The city's economic development director, Jeffrey Flagg, says the subscription program comes at no upfront cost and does not increase monthly costs.
We're sourcing local hydropower credits from a facility here in the county that produces local jobs using local resources.
According to the state's Energy Research and Development Authority, the goal is to become a zero-emissions grid by 2024 by using a mix of hydro, solar, and wind resources. But State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli warns New York is at risk of falling short of that goal. As of August 2022, about 29% of the electricity generated in the state came from renewable resources, with hydroelectric generation making up 75% of the renewable generation. Flagg says the city is taking small steps to bet on green energy with resiliency of the infrastructure at the forefront of investments. The public-private partnership that supplies the city with energy has resulted in $2,000 in savings so far, which is good news for taxpayers.
The city as the anchor tenant, right, because it benefits the entire community indirectly, is given a special discounted rate. So we're actually getting, I think it's 5%. We're getting a 5% discount for the municipal, and in return for that, resident businesses don't see any increase by going green.
In collaboration with the city, low-income families receive a 25% discount to ensure access to greener energy is equitable. Jim Siplon of Warren County's Economic Development Corporation says educating the public of the benefits of hydropower is essential to growth.
Once you're educated, you'll quickly understand what I understand, which is we've got to get everyone possible connected to these assets and these programs to demonstrate their value, to reinforce our commitment to each other, and to make a positive contribution with every dollar we spend every day on energy to a brighter future not only for us but for others.
Glens Falls currently has 2 subscriptions in addition to city needs, the Charles R. Wood Theater and Pure and Simple Foods. Reporting from Glens Falls, I'm Samantha Simmons for North Country Public Radio.
The Long Lake and Blue Mountain Lake communities are still rebuilding after extensive flood damage in July destroyed highways, bridges, and homes. The Adirondack Foundation's Special and Urgent Needs Fund is helping individuals, businesses, and organizations recover. According to a foundation press release, the Sun Fund has received more than $600,000 in requests. Those requests are just to help cover material loss and don't include what income businesses or families have lost. So far, the foundation has given out more than $175,000 to help the communities and it plans on giving more. Officials say hundreds of people have donated to the fund since the disaster occurred. The release says the community has helped to take care of each other in the weeks following the devastation, and that recovery will continue in the coming months.
Many New Yorkers increased the amount of time they spent gardening during the early months of the pandemic. That's according to a study that surveyed states' residents across 6 counties. The Cornell Chronicle says about half the respondents said they increased the time they spent producing wild and backyard food. Only a small number were new to it. The survey also showed people were eating the fruits and vegetables they grew and foraged. The researchers wanted to see how food systems were affected during the early months of the pandemic. Respondents reported that growing backyard foods affected how much control over food availability they had. One of the study's authors says that could have an effect on how people view their food security.
People who live in the North Country often have to travel outside the region for specialized health care to places like New York City, Burlington, and Syracuse. Lots of families go to Syracuse for pediatric care, and many stay at the Ronald McDonald House. Now, the Syracuse Ronald McDonald House is undertaking a major expansion to meet families' needs. Lucy Grindon reports.
Beth Trunfio is the director of the Ronald McDonald House in Syracuse. She says about half of the families who've stayed there this year have come from the North Country. That's largely because of a lack of big hospitals here.
I've been here for over 20 years, and, that specialized care is becoming more and more regional.
Trunfio says you just can't get certain types of specialized pediatric care in the North Country, like care for super high-risk pregnancies and infants born very prematurely.
One of the biggest drivers is that the Krause Neonatal Intensive Care Unit is the only level 4 nursery, which is the highly specialized care nursery in this geographic area. And so really those tiniest and sickest of babies come here.
Trunfio says hospitals in Syracuse also offer pediatric cardiology, neurology, and oncology. The Ronald McDonald House gives families a free place to stay while their kids are in treatment. Trunfio says many stay for months at a time, or they come again and again over the course of years of treatment. For some families, the traditional small hotel-style rooms present some challenges.
We are seeing more families that are multi-generational, parents bringing grandparents perhaps to help care for either the patient or siblings who are staying with us as well.
Hotel-style rooms aren't ideal for parents, grandparents, and kids to share. They also don't give the adults a space to work remotely, away from their kids. So the house is adding 6 new suites on its 4th floor, which is currently undeveloped. The new suites will be more like small apartments and less like hotel rooms.
There's the ability in this suite space to be able to have the child napping if they need to in the bedroom space and the parent working in the living room space.
The suites will also have little kitchens. The expansion is projected to cost $1 million. Ronald McDonald houses operate independently, so Trunfio says they're asking local businesses and individuals for donations. Construction will start soon and should be completed within about 6 to 9 months. Lucy Grindon, North Country Public Radio.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:13. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up, Saranac Lake artist tells us the story behind her new outdoor mural in Ausable Forks. We'll hear more of that conversation coming up in just a few minutes, only here on Northern Light and only here on North Country Public Radio. We are kicking off our spring fundraiser, our fall fundraiser right now at North Country Public Radio. This is the place that you come to understand and better understand the context of what's going on in our community. NCPR connects us from Glens Falls and Queensbury up to Fort Covington and Lowville. This is where you come to help better understand our world. Give now to support it at ncpr.org/give or call 877-388-6277. And thank you so much for your support.
This is music by The Buskers. Check out more of their music and make a gift to North Country Public Radio right now at ncpr.org. Northern Light is supported by the Village Mercantile, bringing Saranac Lake to places beyond the Adirondacks, offering Adirondack-made and inspired goods. VillageMerc.com, anything but general.
The Adirondacks looked a lot different 100 years ago. Huge swaths of forest were clear-cut, rivers were dammed. You can still see the footprints of that history throughout the park. And this time last year, our Adirondack reporter Emily Russell hiked up Lowe's Ridge south of Tupper Lake, where there used to be a massive maple syrup operation. And she produced this audio postcard.
It's a beautiful fall day, bright and sunny. The colors are just totally popping right now. Deep reds and this lime green and yellow, burnt oranges. So really kind of a perfect day to be out in the woods.
The hike up to Lowe's Ridge starts out flat. It's an old rail bed, which is my first clue that there's some history here. I hike through a canopy of fall colors. The trail cuts through a bog, and then the trees open up. There's a beaver pond back here. It's acting as a kind of mirror for the forest.
When the sun hits just right, it reflects the color of the trees down on the water, like doubles the fall foliage you get to see.
I'm here on a weekend when the colors are pretty near peak. There are folks walking their dogs, riding their bikes, and out on patrol.
I'm the Assistant Forest Ranger, Carl Bowler, and I patrol the area here at Horseshoe and Hitchens Pond.
I meet Bowler a few miles into my hike. There's a junction here where you can either go left down to the Bog River, which is fed by Hitchens Pond, or you can go right and head up to the ridge. Bowler tells me that ridge I'm about to climb is named after this guy.
Abbott Augustus Lowell. He was a guy that was born somewhere in the mid-1800s.
1844 in Brooklyn, to be exact.
And he decided to have a maple syrup operation here. And he eventually he had 50,000 taps and 40,000 trees here.
It was a huge operation. He built 2 dams, one right at this junction. There was a railroad out here, a bunch of buildings for workers and the maple syrup business. A lot of it burned in a fire, but some, like the stone foundations around us, have endured. We take a left, and Bowler walks me past what was the old bunkhouse. And then he points to a little patch on our right, part of a garden planted by Lowe's wife.
Further, you have your daylilies and some foxgloves over there. This is the stuff that she planted well over 125 years ago.
There's also a huge hydrangea bush. There are enough remnants that you can almost picture what it would have been like to live and work here. This place, a kind of empire in the woods. After he died, Lowe's estate turned over tens of thousands of acres to New York State. I part ways with Bowler and hop back on the trail.
I'm on the final climb up to the ridge now, and a lot of the leaves that have fallen to the ground are this cherry red color. And a lot of the trail are these like angular slices of slate gray rock.
That rock guides me up higher and higher. Then suddenly there's an opening in the trees, and the trail leads out onto a long, continuous shelf of rock.
I am looking at maybe the greatest view I've ever seen in the Adirondacks. I feel like I've said that a lot, but this is incredible. So it's a full 180-degree view. And you can see the Bog River winding through the forest. And there's fall color outside of that strip of spruce trees. Beautiful deep reds and oranges and yellows.
There's so much wilderness out there. All of a sudden, it feels impossible to imagine this place being anything but somewhere to paddle, somewhere to camp and hike, somewhere for people like me to soak in a pretty spectacular fall day. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio on Lowe's Ridge in the Central Adirondacks.
That postcard originally aired last fall. You can find photos from Emily's hike up Lowe's Ridge at our website, ncpr.org. And I don't know about you, but hearing stories like that makes me feel good coming to North Country Public Radio to help me better understand what our region is like and to better experience the beauty of the North Country, the way that Emily and Kara and Catherine can use language and words to just really move you. I also think of a story Emily did during the pandemic when she was on a hike and talked about feeling small at the top of an overlook. It's just so striking and gets at these heart emotions that we all feel. And it's brought to you here on Northern Light because this matters to us. We know that these are the kinds of things, these values of the heart that matter to us as people. You need to support it. We all need to support it. To give now at ncpr.org/give. Keep it strong for our community. It matters. It matters that we have this nuance and beauty here in our community. Call 877-388-6277 and join with friends in New Haven, Vermont, who described NCPR as a sonic gallery, exhibiting a responsive and tactfully curated array of thoughtful and engaging stories, conversations, and programs. Thank you for all that NCPR does, and thank you so much for your contribution. We want to thank you next. Join with Sandra and Tyler Harrison in Brazier Falls, Nancy Sinkoff down in the city, Maggie Pope in Peru, and say yes to North Country Public Radio. Give now online at ncpr.org/give or call 877-388-6277.
You're listening to Northern Lights here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. In just a minute, there's a new mural in Ausable Forks, and we'll talk with the artist. Then stick around after the show for Bird Note coming up at 8:42. But first, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
First, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to our listeners in Canada. It's Thanksgiving in Canada. Thank you for listening. It's Indigenous Peoples Day here in the U.S. Partly sunny skies in places like Glens Falls and Lake George today. Clouds elsewhere and scattered showers. Highs in the upper 40s, low 50s. Southwest winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. There might be some patchy frost overnight tonight and into Tuesday morning, with lows dipping into the 30s and 40s overnight tonight. Then about a 20% chance of showers tomorrow afternoon, mainly, with highs in the low 50s. And again, maybe some patchy frost Tuesday night into Wednesday. Right now, clouds, 45 degrees here in Canton.
We have been tracking murals, mosaics, and other outdoor art in the North Country on the NCPR website. You can check out our mural map at ncpr.org. And a new mural in Ausable Forks was finished and unveiled this season. A bridge over water under Main Street is artist Georgianne Gaffney's newest creation. Gaffney is a landscape, portrait, and decorative artist in Saranac Lake. Her work has been on display in galleries and exhibits in the Adirondacks for the last 20 years.
Yeah, the 2023 Tahawas Center's outdoor mural is located at the end of a rectangular pocket park between Tahawas and the Ausable Theater. And Georgianne told me that she began designing the mural last winter. It's painted in the style of trompe-l'oeil, or fool the eye. And she says her proposal for the mural was inspired by the Ausable River Gorge.
In the grotto, there's a wall connecting the movie theater to the Tahawas Center, and it's under Main Street. So the idea was to paint a trompe-l'oeil mural, and the subject matter I came up with was to make it look like an old stone bridge with an archway with the view of the Ausable River going underneath. And so I did a small sketch that I painted in, that I submitted in the spring, and they used that for display and press. And then they had the idea to do the mural not directly on the wall, but to be done on panels. So they used MDO, which is an exterior kind of wood that is good to have out in the elements. So I really liked the idea of doing it on the panels because I was able to do it in my garage. So I started it in the summer and started in by doing the drawing of the archway itself, which was tricky to get the correct perspective. And the photograph that I selected of the view of the river, I wanted to make sure I got the really dramatic bend of the river in it to enhance the deep perspective to go along with the trompe-l'oeil idea. So I started it in the garage, worked on it, I'd say like every other day for a handful of hours, and took photographs as I was working on it so I could show the progress to the Tahawa Center and also to put online social media so people could see it developing. And then in the middle of September, my husband and I brought it to the space, and the Tahawa Center volunteers put it up. And then I was able to finish it in place, which was delightful because the weather has been gorgeous this month. And it was very quiet and peaceful, and you can hear the river running by. And occasionally people would see me working on it and come walking around and check it out, and some children. And so it was a lot of fun. And I thought for whimsy, I'd add a few little detailed critters. So on the inside of the archway, on the mossy rocks, I hid a little tiny mouse. And super cute. And then on the outside of the bridge on the rock face, you'll find a Luna moth and a black-tailed swallow butterfly.
Well, I haven't seen it in person, Georgianne, but I see a photo. I've got a photo of you working on it, and I love the way the colors of the stone in the bridge, the arch, and so on, just, blend so beautifully with the buildings surrounding it. I mean, it talk about trompe-l'oeil. I mean, it just really, it fits that space so well.
Well, thank you. And it's funny because I did not intend to do that. It just happened. So when I was, and it's one thing in my garage, I could only stand so far back to really, look at it.
Yeah.
But when we put it in there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. and sending photographs to my family and friends in the South, one of them actually was like, so you painted the inside, you painted under the bridge, the mural, and I'm like, no, the whole wall is the mural. And it's just so funny that the trompe-l'oeil really can fool the eye. Using very dramatic elements like the stones and the deep, dark spaces in between them, I think accentuates that.
One thing with our mural project, Georgianne, we want to let folks know, how do you find it? How do you get there? If people want to check out your A Bridge Over Water Under Main Street, do we park somewhere, and how do we get there?
Well, it's right downtown on Sable Forks. It's the space in between the movie theater and the Tahawa Center. So when you're going down Main Street, you would turn and go towards the grocery store Tops, and there's a big public parking lot there that also is along the river, and there's a little gazebo. So if you park in the back, and there's a long grass grotto between the two buildings, it's at the end of the grotto, and there's lots of beautiful plantings along the edge of the buildings, and it's just a lovely space.
Saranac Lake artist Georgianne Gaffney's mural, A Bridge Over Water Under Main Street, is the newest mural in Osable Forks. You'll find photos of it on our website, ncpr.org, where you can also check out NCPR's mural map project, ncpr.org, and where you can also give a gift to North Country Public Radio. Come on, support programs like Northern Light and projects like the mural map. We've also done, ice cream stands, and we're working on a healthcare series this month. Special projects here in the North Country meant for you, our listeners. And Monica Sandreski, it's listener dollars that support these projects.
It absolutely is. And it's impossible to do without all of us coming together and giving what we can to make NCPR strong. I think one thing that I love about that conversation that you had, Todd, is that it's such a reminder that, of course, we come to Northern Light for accurate news and information, these important contextual conversations. But this is where you get even more than that. the art, the music, the conversations and connection that remind us, who are we up here? What's it like to live up here? Who are my neighbors and who are the people that are around me? This matters to us to help us give a better sense of our world and